Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer brought to you by Forge College. Today, we're essentially drafting a blueprint for a universal translator. You know, something to decode what usually looks like completely impenetrable alien blockchain code. If you've ever stared at a raw Ethereum transaction trace and wondered if you literally need a PhD in cryptography just to figure out a simple token transfer, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to take all that chaos and turn it into crystal clear logic. All right, so picking up right where we left off in our last lesson on optimizing network throughput with ordered execution, here's our schematic for today. We'll start with the unreadable trace problem, then meet your decoder ring. After that, we're drafting the analysis script, translating hex with ABIs, aligning traces to calls, and finally, doing a blueprint review. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The unreadable trace problem. Getting from raw engine logs to readable logic. Now, we previously learned how the execution engine runs beneath the surface, extracting those detailed traces and memory snapshots. But here's the harsh reality. Unless you're literally a cyborg, reading raw hex logs is just going to make your eyes cross. Just take a look at the raw geth-debug trace over on the left. It's got this terrifying hex blob starting with 0x095E7B3. I mean, that tells you practically nothing at a glance, right? But over on the right, look at that beautifully clean decoded ethers.js call. Just transfer from with its parameters. This sweet relief right here, that's the exact gap we're bridging today. Moving on to section 2, meet your decoder ring. We'll be talking about ethers.js and ABI fragments. To actually bridge that gap we just saw, we need a really robust translator. And honestly, an ABI fragment acts as our literal, almost magical decoder ring. By definition, an ABI fragment is just the translation dictionary our script uses to convert opaque call data into readable function names and typed parameters. So provided it perfectly matches the function selector, it takes those messy hex blobs and translates them into actual understandable human terms. It's a total game changer. All right, section 3, drafting the analysis script. It's time to build our analyze-tx.js file. Okay, so let's roll up our sleeves and actually build this machine from scratch. The initial setup is a total breeze. First, we just make our directory, then initialize our node project, and finally, we install our crucial tools. We're going to need ethers for decoding, axios to fetch raw data from our node, and minimist to quickly parse our command line arguments. Pretty standard stuff, right? Next up, you kind of need to think of these two environment variables as the power cables for your analysis machine. First, you've got eth_rpc, which just points to your provider, like Infura, Alchemy, or even a local node. Second, geth-rpc debug RPC connects directly to your geth node to pull those raw, step-by-step debug traces. Plug these in and you're hooked straight into the network's data stream. Which brings us to section 4, translating hex with ABIs. Let's look at the core implementation pattern. Okay, so here is where the magic really happens. This 5-step blueprint is basically the engine of our script. Check this out. Step 1, we grab the transaction data. Step 2, pull the debug trace. Step 3, load up our ABI dictionaries. Step 4, decode that opaque call data. And finally, step 5, we align those freshly decoded calls directly with our trace frames. It's this incredibly elegant, repeatable loop that systematically transforms raw data into something we can actually interpret. Now, at the very heart of step 4 is this beautifully simple utility, ethers.utils.Interface.parse transaction. By passing our data through this specific function, we essentially strip away all the machine gibberish, and it just spits out the exact function name along with every single typed argument. It's literally like turning a key in a lock. Let's move to section 5, aligning traces to calls. This is all about stitching those data sources together. So at this point, we have the raw execution steps, and we have the newly decoded names. But the crucial part is taking those two things and matching them up perfectly. We need to know exactly when and where each function fired. Looking at this engineering chart, we use a pretty flawless matching system. For the action to field coming from the trace call frame, we compare it against our decoded target. And you absolutely must remember to normalize this to lowercase addresses. Then action.input gets passed right into parse transaction. Meanwhile, the top-level tx.data is decoded directly with our interfaces. But, as meticulous engineers, we really have to QA our work against a few common pitfalls. First up, ABI mismatches. If your fragment doesn't perfectly match the selector, it fails silently, which will honestly just leave you tearing your hair out. Second, address format mismatches. Like I said, always normalize to lowercase checksums. And third, accidentally fetching flattened opcode traces instead of structured call frames. So definitely keep a sharp eye out for those three things. And that brings us to Section 6, Blueprint Review and Next Steps, wrapping up your functional analysis tool. If you've followed the schematic up to here, your script should now be printing a beautiful JSON line with the trace index, contract address, and fully decoded function. But to keep it running smoothly long-term, remember this critical rule. Always treat ABI fragments as interpreters. They map raw calldata to human terms, but must exactly match the function selector. In our other Forge College debugging courses, we heavily emphasize keeping ABI fragments as minimal as possible during that initial decode pass. This laser focus helps you avoid false positives and really speeds up your analysis. So, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. How will you use these newly annotated call sequences to actually pinpoint and replay failures locally? Well, that is exactly what we're going to tackle in our next lesson on reproducing bugs on the Hard Hat Network. But for now, please go visit forge.college to explore more Web3 resources, deepen your debugging knowledge, and keep building. Thanks for joining this explainer, and I'll see you next time.